nervous?
No.
Where's your answer?
Dennis Beckham, let the ball on! Dennis Beckham! Dennis Beckham! Dennis Beckham! Dennis Beckham! Oh!
Oh, no! Oh, yes! He missed it.
Welcome to the Suffering from Joy podcast. This is not Devin, who is unable to record tonight. I'm Scott Speck and taking over for whatever is closest to a host of this podcast. With us, as always, is our esteemed panel, Seth, who knows everything. Seth, how are you doing?
I watched 3 matches in person this past week, and none of them involved Austin FC, and I think I might have been for the better for it.
I mean, as beautiful as Seattle can be, I totally get that.
It is just like I thought about going out. We actually had 77 away fans travel for this match, which is pretty darn impressive. But as I started being like, if I'm going to fly out 4 hours to watch us lose on grass to a team that's running out their AB side, I don't know. I have other things I could do in my life, and I chose to do the other things.
As somebody who stayed to watch that match, I think you made a correct choice. Also with us is Brad. Brad, how are you doing?
I'm doing well, although I will argue that Seth saw 2.5 matches last week, considering one of them was barely a match. It was over by halftime. But yeah, otherwise doing pretty well. Just dealing with the Texas heat as always this time of the year.
I was going to say the second half of that match was the match. The first half wasn't a match. The first half was slaughtering. And slaughtering can also be, for context, I went to the PSG Inter Miami match on Sunday. And but slaughters can be fun. I mean, Brad, you and I watched Liverpool slaughter West Ham, and that was incredible. And watching this PSG team was similarly incredible. There was no one moment of zen in the match. It was just oh, when they want to turn it on, they can turn it on, and you're just like, how are they completing passes this pass? It felt like Miami needed 13 guys on the field to defend PSG's 11. But it was also weird attending a match where the loudest cheers were for Messi, not for either team. It was just everyone was there to watch him against PSG. Barely any they would show on the massive board, probably the best video board in the world they have there at the Benz, that they would show these PSG fans. They were playing the PSG goal song, and none of the people wearing PSG shirts knew the PSG goal song. It was absolutely hilarious.
Because they bought their shirts 3 years ago when Messi was playing.
Some of them might be PSG American fans, but it's interesting. I was watching Real Madrid Juventus today. I mean, obviously at home, not in person. And the Madrid chants were going around the Hard Rock, and some teams have legitimate fans in the U.S. or some of their fans flew over from other places and have been taking it seriously. I mean, the South American teams have been doing very much that in this tournament. But PSG and Miami track. I mean, Miami. I will say Miami brought up 150 legit supporters, and I wasn't too far away from them, and I could hear some of their chants. But kudos to the actual Miami supporters. You were good, but it's different from other teams' ultras.
Yeah, that's always going to be the most casual game to attend is PSG coming off a Champions League win and then the Inter Messis. So Austin participated in a game. I don't want to say they played because I don't think that after watching it you can really say that. They lost 2-0 at Seattle, who scored a goal in the first half and the second half. We're gonna go through it a little bit, but I want to start by talking about the lineups. I think everybody after a 2-week break was a little surprised to not see Azuni and Bukhari starting. But it sounded like they both had some pretty substantial travel during the trip, and Azuni got listed as questionable due to a hamstring. So that meant that Yadier O'Brien started on the right with Gallagher on the left wing. Vasquez was up top with Wolf playing what's nominally a 10 or a support striker, with Savage and Danny in the middle. Was this the kind of lineup that either of you expected?
I mean, I was very much prepared for Izuni and for Bukhari not to start. Izuni was on the injury report. We knew that Bukhari had traveled. That wasn't a surprise. Seeing Robert Taylor not starting was a bit of a surprise. And I was like, oh, this is the perfect match. Let's see him start there. The fact that he's still not in good enough shape means did Miami sell us damaged goods here?
I mean, that's what it's starting to feel like at this point. Obviously, the only way you can really get in game shape is to have games, and also now's the time to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
when you have your other guys out.
Yeah, my biggest concern was Robert Taylor not starting, and then we're gonna get deep into this conversation. I don't know what CJ Faudré has to do to get a start on this team. Because what has Hader Obrian shown you at all this season that he can do better than CJ Faudré? At any point. If it's running in a straight line, that's not the answer. If it's creating chances, that's not the answer. If it's missing chances, not even there so far. But Hader's done it more with less time, or has done it more. CJ's not getting opportunities. And my question is, like, why is CJ even on this roster if we're not going to put him on the field in a situation like Saturday? Even in a sub situation late in the match, he couldn't get on the field. And Nico's insistence upon consistently playing Obrian, whether it is in a starting order or in a sub, as is more common, is going to cost this team points. And it may already have this season. I think you could probably argue that it has at points at times this season. But it doesn't make sense. The guy's not performing. And this is the same man who sat a DP in Bukhari earlier this year because he wasn't performing and called him out. But you won't do that to your mid-range player on the wing who's probably not going to be here next year. Doesn't make sense to me.
But you know what? We did see something remarkable from Nico Esteves in this match. We saw a sub before the 60th minute. Obrian was playing that poorly that he got subbed off for the 56th minute. I don't know why that sub wasn't made at halftime. It did obviously come right after the second goal. But, like, Bukhari, I mean, he wasn't amazing in his sub performance there, but, like, come on. If we just go down 1-0 right before the half, you bring him on at half. You probably bring on John at half because – I mean, I'm losing my mind. I wanted to make sure I wasn't going crazy. So I decided to pull up the flash score ratings of this match. And in the player ratings of this match, which player from Austin FC was rated the highest performer in this match?
I saw this, and I think it was Beardo, and I don't understand how.
Yes. Did we watch the same match as this? Like, I don't know.
They don't watch matches is the problem.
Yeah.
Maybe they counted hitting the post as being like a good thing, like a positive, because they're just like not in the system to hit the post while you're defending. Which we're going to talk about in a second. But I think the limitation on playing Obrian is really because of not having anybody to link up player possession on the other wing. Then, like, you can get away with playing Gallagher on the other side of Bukhari. You can't get away with playing him on the other side of Obrian because then you don't have anywhere to attack down the wings or maintain possession. And if you really want to think about how you want to utilize those players, like Fodor can't hold the ball up. Like, he can sustain possession as part of hold up play. We've seen him do that. He has the frame to do it. If you put him on the left and you put John on the right, John's now making those runs deep when Dessler's on the ball that Bukhari usually makes, and that stretches the defense back. And then you can use Fodry for your possession side to try to link up with whoever like your left side is, who usually is kind of Owen because he likes to drift over. Like, that seems to be the logical way to play this team.
And not to mention that Gallagher in the wing space is more of a natural right winger. And Fodre, as we saw at FC2, is a left winger. Like, play people in their natural positions. Goes back to a conversation we've had since all year with he kept flip-flopping Bukhari.
Well, and I think the other thing that gets discounted on CJ is that if you play him at a left wing and you're attacking mostly down right, he's a great option on the back post or in the box to make those other runs just due to his size and finishing ability that we've seen at FCO. You know, how many goals did he score at that level where, you know, Jimmy Farkley went down the right and crossed the ball in and CJ just muscled out the guy and scored it. And he can still do that to MLS left backs, like or right backs. He's still big enough to do that. And so I think a lot of us, especially in this fan base, and I assume the people here are just kind of tired of seeing Nico run out the same lineups with the same people doing the same things, and it's not working. And at some point, you just kind of have to use the old adage of, like, is it insanity to try the same thing over and over again and expect different results? Because it seems pretty insane right now.
Yeah, and I promise you mentioned the back post run that CJ can make. We're not the only team in this league that can't defend a back post.
Yeah, we're gonna get to that in a second. So a couple of things. So Seattle played a pretty strong lineup. They didn't start Jordan Morris and they didn't start De La Vega.
But they also, I mean, they didn't start a bunch of guys. They had one healthy center back, Christian Roldan is not a center back. I mean, Jackson Reagan's a very good center back. But you look at this matchup, like you have Nuhu, who is out with a red card. Kim Ki is out with a calf injury. Yamar was out. Like Bell's like this is your chance to take advantage of this, and we managed to not take advantage of it once again. Austin FC pulling what we normally do.
I believe that was the different Roldan brother was at center back. I think Christian Roldan was still center mid, and Alex Roldan was center half.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, I think
I'm only able to correct Seth because I literally have the lineup up and looking at it right now. Otherwise, I would not even.
No, that's fine. This
right.
is what you have two Roldan brothers here, and I was only looking at it by last name, so I was wrong.
So I mentioned it a little bit earlier, but we saw something incredibly rare, which was a defender hit the ball off their own post. There was a scramble in front of the Austin goal, and one of their players, I think it was Musovsky, but I'm not 100% sure on that, hit the post, and it just kind of trickled into the middle, and Beer just hit it as hard as he could, thinking that he was, I think, closer to the far post than he was, and he was not. And only by sheer luck did he not score that in a what can only be compared to Amar Tark, his one and only appearance for Austin FC.
Yeah, it was shocking. After my mouth stopped dropping and freaking out, I started laughing uncontrollably when that happened because holy shit. I think he was trying to clear the ball like over the end line. But it's also a situation where he panicked because if he turns around, he has some space and a little bit of time to figure out what to do than to just immediately do the panic move. And I thought Beirut had just a terrible, terrible match Saturday night. And it's a recurring theme with him. Beirut's either really good or he's non-existent or a negative to the team. It's one of the two. There's no just steady middle ground where it's like, hey, nice performance tonight. All right, you did your job. Cool. And if you watch this match, not only do you have the near own goal, you have the first goal completely on him, in my opinion. You have a situation later, either earlier or later in the half. I think earlier in the half because the goal happened right at the end of the half. He leaves something Devin loves to talk about. He leaves a winger with 15 yards of space instead of closing out on him to allow an easy cross in. It's just one thing after another with the guy. And when you look at the minutes he's played versus the minutes that Kalmanic has played, Jean Kalmanic has just as many goal contributions this year as Guilherme Biru. And Kalmanic, in my opinion, has played better defense this year out of the two of them. So which guy should be getting minutes on the field?
It's really hard to argue that Biru brings more defensively when he was at fault for the first goal and nearly scored an own goal in the same game. Like that's in the same half even.
Yeah.
I think Coleman has played roughly like 1/5 of the minutes that Biru has and has the same number of goal contributions and generally I think brings a amount of attacking opportunity that Biru just doesn't. And some of that is that I think instructionally, like Biru is not told to go as forward, but that's also a coaching trade-off. Like that's a choice that Nico makes every match to play a certain way that, in my view, holds the team back. Seth, do you have any other Biru thoughts? Okay, he shook his head no. Moving on to the goal. It's right before halftime. It's almost the last kick of the half. Rothrock of Seattle takes the ball off the left wing on a long pass. He gets Dessler running back and Dessler kind of never gets his footing or gets his ground set to be able to put in a challenge. He's kind of on his back foot the whole time. And Rothrock puts in, credit to him, a really good ball across the Austin goal. Again, Musovsky, I think, just misses it on the header, which is still a open header in front of goal. And then you see Jesus Ferreira wide open on the back post with Biru just watching him score the goal against us. And it really just goes to show, like, we talked a lot under Wolf about how the system just didn't work in the sense of allowing those back post goals. So we haven't really seen that as much this year. And this looked like a goal that got scored against Austin 2 years ago a lot.
I think this goal. Go ahead, Seth.
No, you go first. Red.
I was gonna say I think this goal is less systematic and more lazy. I think Guillermo Biru was lazy as hell getting back defensively, jogging and ball watching instead of getting back into position. And if he's back in position, I don't think this is a goal. This is less systematic than more just one player being lazy as hell.
Well, it's also
Yeah.
that like we had that as well, but also like Danny's getting beat off the ball initially there, and like Rothrock had his day with Danny. He was, I mean, they were chirping at each other. There was all sorts of stuff going back and forth there, but like Danny didn't look like. I mean, Danny's usually at least a consistent presence, whether he's playing at the 6, 8, 10, and I think he played a little bit of all three in this match. But like he got to a point there where it looked like that the game was passing him by, which is not normally the Danny approach to this game. But yeah, I would agree that he's secondarily at fault compared to Biro on this.
Yeah, ultimately just like giving up a free header in the box is always going to be. And if he was central, if it seemed like he was more like trying to guard against the initial header, I think it would be. I think you could make a claim of it being more systematic in terms of being overloaded on the back. But like you said, like he's not even in position to do that. He's not
He's
doing anything.
3 yards behind where the header's coming in at that point, and not really making an effort to get into the play.
And it's not like Jesus Ferreira isn't a like known goal scorer that like you need to mark at all times in the box. Like that's what he does.
I mean, how many times has he scored against this team? Like, come on. Yeah, he might be wearing a different jersey, but it's like it was funny. At that point, I was listening to the game driving home from the Fire Charlotte game, and it's just like, oh, Ferreira scored. Okay, yeah, like no, you didn't. Even, I didn't even because on the radio call they were. It was so fast of his contact they didn't even call out his name. I was like, oh yeah, it's probably Ferreira, and then it's like Ferreira with the. Like,
If Ferreira's playing Austin FC or a Caribbean island, he's probably going to score. Like this is just the way things are at this point. So maybe keeping an eye on him seems like a good idea.
So Brad, you bring up a very interesting corollary here. Should Austin FC be eligible for the Caribbean Shield?
Ooh. I don't know if we could win it. I mean, honestly, I think Violette probably knocked us out of that, right?
I mean, Violetta hasn't requalified because they haven't really reformed their team, but another Haitian team would beat us. I don't trust our ability to win on islands.
Okay, so here's the big conundrum. So between getting scored on by the Pirate of the Caribbean and also just on the road Texas State joining the Pacific 10, are we Are we on the coast now? Like I'm very confused as to like where our positioning
first
in
of all,
the globe is anymore.
I actually don't know the name of the new conference. Is it the Pac 8, Pac 10, or Pac 12?
I think they kept the Pac-12 nomenclature even though it's 8. When it should just go back to the
I thought they
Pac-8.
kept the Pac-10 nomenclature even though it's 8.
They should have gone back to the Pac-8 is what they should have done.
Yeah.
Because back in the day, it was the Pac-8. Like before, I think it was before the Arizona schools got added, if I'm not mistaken.
It is still Pac12.com, and the Pac12 welcomes the addition of Texas State University is a real sentence that is on our computers and probably not generated by AI, but we're not 100% sure.
I mean, congratulations to the Bobcats. Really happy and proud for them as a school and as a program, but it just still seems very weird to me to think of them that way.
The idea of Gonzaga basketball coming to San Marcos every year is cracking me up.
And you know what? That sounds awesome, but that will be a great chance to see the Zags play.
Oh, I'm absolutely going to. Yes.
Yes, we 100% should do this. Okay, so that happened right before halftime. Again, as Seth mentioned, there were no halftime subs, even though that would have seemed like the obvious time to bring on Pukari, which happens right after their second goal, which, if you watch it, starts all the way in the back with Stephen Fry, who unfortunately did not get his 1,000th save of the match because Austin didn't get enough shots on goal for him to get another save. I think believes at 999. Phil will probably get it next match. The thing that really annoys me about this goal, well, there's two things that really annoy me about this goal. One is how easily they pass through our midfield, just completely like they're not even there. And the second thing that annoys me is that after the pass from Ferreira up to Masovsky, I actually think what he did was his worst option because he had a player on his left who was running past the defense and a player on his right who was running past the defense. And he decided to not pass and just put like a little dribble move on Svatak, who again was kind of never able to like get his footing to get a challenge in and scores.
Well, Svatok just looked out of place there because Svatok was thinking that was thinking exactly what you were saying there. He's going to pass it. I don't need to come up on him. And then by the last second, Svatok realizes, oh shit, he's not passing it, and this is too late, and I'm screwed. I mean, he got caught in the proverbial no man's land there.
Yeah, I kind of wondered if there was supposed to be some kind of offside trap there, but that also didn't look like what they were doing. It's kind of a classic, like you said, no man's land of just like a backline that doesn't know what they're doing.
And that seems to be often the case when we have, I mean, Dessler usually isn't as caught off there, but he was, I mean, relatively out of position there. And then Biru wasn't exactly in position once again.
Yeah, I didn't. It's interesting because defensively, it should be our best. It's been our best strength of the team most of the season. We've had the one real bad game against Vancouver, but honestly, the rest of the season hasn't been that bad defensively. I thought this was the worst defensive game we played since that Vancouver match. All in. Yeah, you're right. The goal was the least of the three options that I would have expected him to take, but I'm more concerned with after the first 30 minutes or so, it looked like we didn't want to be there anymore, despite the fact that it was 0-0 after 30 minutes. And once we got down one, where did we see fight to come back? Because, in the last month and a half or so, we've actually been showing that ability to come back a little bit if need be and get back into a match, at least get a draw. Didn't see that at all in this match.
Well, I'm pretty sure you're aware of this, but Nico Estevez was quoted in the post-game press conference as saying that had they gotten the match to 2-1, they could have drawn, which factually is true because once you are only down one goal, you can get another goal and get to a draw. It just, if you look at this game and you look at especially like the XG and shots on goal in the game, nothing is happening until the game's already over. Like there's one shot by Vasquez in the first half that's kind of dangerous. In the second half, there's a few kind of close in shots, but there's nothing that is just like, oh, that really should have been.
I'm convinced that Nico thinks everyone else watching the game is stupid. Because this is at least the third or fourth time this year where he's had a post-game press conference comment that you just want to look at him and go, are you watching the same damn thing everybody else in the world is? And I don't know if he's just always trying to be sunshine and pumping good news. But man, it's okay to call shit. I promise you. You'll get more respect from this fan base about it if you do it. It doesn't mean go crap on the players all the time. It doesn't mean be harsh all the time, but we know what we watched. And what the red card came in about the 85th minute? Is that right? 86th minute? Something like that?
88th.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what? We get 2-1 in the 88th, and you're telling me we might tie with 5 minutes to go? Come on, man. The odds of that happening are extremely slim.
Yeah.
There's also some very weird XG totaling from this game because I keep seeing a lot of variance in the expected goals for Seattle and Austin. Football somehow has us winning expected goals almost 2-1, which doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, just like these things. Sometimes you're like, was that the match that I watched? No,
they counted Biru's shot as one actually on goal against them, and they just put it the wrong goal. That's what it was. So that was like,
yeah, no, I was about to say. I mean, Flash Score has it at 1.04 for Seattle, which does feel about. I mean, I saw another one that had Ferreira's chance at 0.9. I think that's a little high for that. I would say it's probably a 0.7 chance, but us at 0.96. I mean, I guess when we had some really weak like passes to the goal, like I'd barely call our shots, like even shots on goal at this point. Like I felt like, I mean, we had one shot on target. One.
Yeah, I think that's I think that's part of the frustration is that it doesn't even feel like we kind of talked about this last season and the year before of Austin FC road matches where you watch the highlights on Apple and it's just highlights of the other team. And this felt like another one of those matches. And especially when, there was, for those of us who stayed up late to watch it, didn't start till 9:30 our time here. You're kind of sitting there like 11:15, you're like, why am I doing this? And I think that's really like that's a really bad trend for the fan base of just like not even having a belief that this team can be fun or be interesting to watch. And at some point that just becomes a like going to the stadium for the atmosphere or for your friends as opposed to like anything about connecting to the club. And that's a problem because those friends can go anywhere.
Yeah, so the last 2 years, by the way, in Seattle, we have a combined 2 shots on target. Last year, I think we were outshot something like 23-2.
We got a point last year. We got
We
a
got a
point.
point. Yeah, it was awful. The XG was like 0.04, if I remember right, because it was a little soft shot from the left that wasn't even really a shot. It just kind of dribbled in from Rigoni.
Yeah, depending on where you check.
Sorry, Scott froze. We lost him.
Yeah, see the interwebs do not like him at this point.
But that match last year was one of those where it just completely froze. Scott, we lost you for a second, by the way, so it froze on you. So if you were saying something, you might want to restate what you were saying.
I was not. That worked out perfectly.
Okay. But 2 years, 2 shots on target total up in Seattle. And I fundamentally, yes, Josh Wolf needed to go. But Scott, you said something in our side chat that we have for the podcast that we talk through almost every day. You went back and listened to the season preview pod that we all did together. And we gave this a resounding D for a hire for Nico Estevez. And I think the deeper we get into the season, the more that the questions that people in this fan base had last October when this hire was made are coming to fruition of like, what in the hell do we make this hire for this quickly? Because everything that was on paper is bearing itself out in reality. And this team is right now, ninth place? I think just on the cusp of ninth.
Yep. I mean, it's very, very tight table, 5 through 9, but like we don't look like we're going to be able to beat the Seattle team at home. We got LAFC coming in on Saturday, and they're also in this race.
I think we're somewhere in that 7 to 10 range at the end of the year. Like it's the first time in our history that decision days actually, I think, will be interesting for us. But we got 14 matches left in league play. And we're sitting on 26 points. I think we need 19 to 20 more to at least get into the play-in. Somewhere in that range will get you in the play-in. And on our current point per game pace, that's probably right about where we end up, is in that 7 to 9 range. But did you hire Nico Estevez? And did you spend all this money to finish 7 to 9? And if the answer is yes, then you really start questioning what in the blue hell is this organization doing?
I think it was Matt Doyle had a tweet talking about Austin of us spending $30 million on attacker and somehow not having anybody who can complete a pass. And you watch that game, especially on Saturday, and you see that like there's just nothing through the midfield that's getting played or any kind of cohesiveness or structure or any even kind of like semblance of what they're doing. And we've seen this up and down and back and forth of like, a very inconsistent play, but we never see a coherent style or seeming like the roster fits together. And when you spend as much money as Austin has, you expect them to just be better. You expect the team to just play better. And a lot of that falls on Nico because ultimately he's the one who's making the choices of who plays and where and how they're supposed to play. And I think this roster is better than they're playing. And I'm very much you can't fire the players, you have to fire the coach. And I think everything that we've seen and everything we talked about again after the Nico hire has come to fruition. He's a cautious coach who plays more defensively and chooses to have structure and play defense over attempting to score. And this is a team that I don't think is going to win defensive games. I think we've seen that bear out. They need to play an attacking style and try to score.
Seth's going to call me a homer. I think there's a Spanish coach available right now that we should make a run at who is available, who plays a more exciting style. And you know exactly who I'm talking about.
I know. I mean, but apparently is his gardening leave finally over?
His gardening leave is over. Like, Marty Cifuentes is available. All right. Coached at QPR the last couple of years. We've seen it in person. The style's fun.
Yeah.
It's not
boring. Utter chaos.
Yeah, it's chaos. But you know what? It's at least fun to watch.
Yeah.
He grew up in Barcelona. Everything matches, I think, what we ultimately would want from a roto perspective. And if you ever wanted to make a run at him, He's available right now. Is he going to be available in October, November? I doubt it.
And I think this is a valid question for those of us who have seen what Nashville's doing right now. They fired their coach mid-season last year, and they hired PJ Callahan, who a lot of us were very excited about based on his coaching of the U.S. national team as a head coach, which is something that Nico and Josh never did, we never saw from. And now they look a lot better than they did last year. And that's kind of the thing that you can see, they're in third in the East right now. Sam Surge, I believe, is winning the Golden Boot, but somehow wasn't an All-Star.
But Brandon Vasquez is an all-star.
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised that hasn't been talked about more in MLS circles, but also kind of glad about it. Maybe that'll pick up closer to the All-Star game. And that's kind of the thing is that and again, I'm somebody who thinks that, if the team's not doing well, you fire the coach because you can't fire the players. And sometimes you need to do that and you take advantage of oh, he's our guy, let's do it. And it's not like Roto has not been on record as making the move quickly because he wanted to get his guy in to help out with the roster. Because that's, again, what he said over and over again when Nico was here or when Nico was hired. And you just kind of hope that Austin's not going to miss out on another good coach because they were just too afraid to pull the trigger.
I think if we continue down this path, we need to either pull the trigger now or you're stuck with Nico till at least next May or June. Because as we know with the calendars and the way they match up, the quality of coaches that are available in October, November, December are not the same as the quality of coaches that are available in May and June. They're just not. So,
but it's also if you have a good enough job, I don't know, you could go pay $10 million for a coach's release contract in the middle of a season, and we see how that works out, Scott. Right?
I mean, if you have the money to do it, there's no reason not to. As long as you're not doing that every season or every 3 seasons. Yeah. I don't know. The other thing that I think is worrisome that we need to start looking at again is that Austin is now up to 0.75 goals per game, which is slightly ahead of the pace of the worst attacking team in MLS history, DC United in 2010, who scored 0.7 goals per game. They only scored 21 in a 30-game season. I'm a little worried we're going to challenge that.
So, I mean, I did watch a game a few weeks ago at Audi Field where we're going to go in July, or it is July now, in 25 days. Maybe we'll cue up the magic of the Chicago Fire and score 7 goals against DC United. Wait a minute. We're watching Austin FC. That's not happening.
Okay, is it true that they call it the Rowdy when DC United aren't playing because of the DC United fan base just isn't very active?
Yeah, that is it is they used to be active and now they're not active. I mean, the Washington Spirit, first of all, we are a very pro women's soccer podcast, so I'm gonna put that out there. The Washington Spirit are outdrawing DC United. That is awesome for the Washington Spirit. I'm really glad, but that's also really pathetic for DC United. The team that is the third tenant of that stadium, because the DC Defenders are theoretically a higher priority than NWSL, because the Washington Spirit have qualified for the women's version of CONCACAF Champions Cup, and they had to move their matches to Richmond. That would be like us playing in San Antonio for it makes no sense.
Are they playing where the Kickers play?
Yeah, at City Stadium. Oh, but because they didn't want to pay more rent on these matches where they didn't necessarily think they would make money. But it is just as you're going through this process here, the Spirit should be the #1 tenant of that stadium at this point. And they're a lot of fun to watch. And sadly, they're losing their coach because of being a multi-club ownership scheme. But I don't know. Let's ban multi-club ownership, but that's a whole other story.
Yeah, that game where we're in DC in a few weeks is going to be, I think, some abysmal attendance overall. So
that is undoubtedly the Sickos game of the week.
I mean, we have a few of these coming up, and I think that might be our saving grace here. Is after LAFC, we get a New England team that's been hot and cold for Maxi Arrudi's homecoming. We get to go to DC, go to Montreal. We will be done with playing 4 of the best teams in the West after this weekend. It is. I mean, that being said, we still have plenty of chaos potential. I mean, we have 3 games against San Jose still on the calendar. What happens when a very movable defense goes up against a non-existent offense, and a very good offense goes up against a mediocre defense? I don't like our odds.
Yeah, so I think that gets into the conversation of how do we look at this week, right? With LAFC coming to town, because we do only have 48 hours between matches, a full 40 hours of rest. We have Sunday, Monday, and then we play again Tuesday night in San Jose for Open Cup. And I know we're all on the record as go all in for Open Cup. But then if that's the case, what is your ideal lineup Saturday night against Los Angeles? And how many minutes do you want to see guys like Brandon Vasquez get? Like for me, it's start
we've
Vasquez
seen
is fine, but if he plays more than 60, I'm not going to be happy.
we've seen that Nico is completely resistant to the idea of resting players. He is going to run his team out there, and he's going to run them into the ground if need be. And that's just, we saw that all through May. I don't think it's a good strategy. I don't think it's a good long-term strategy. And I think it depends on how the LAFC game is going. I think that's one of those games where you really try to do the like 50-40, 60-30 kind of like Vasquez Zuni split, and then kind of like try to split that again on Tuesday. I just don't know that Nico's shown that he'll do that.
Well, I think you have to do the same with Bucati. Dessler's probably another 60-minute appearance on Saturday, because you're hoping I know he's probably okay to start building in more minutes, but I'd rather see Dessler get full time on Tuesday, because I think he's going to be. The game's more just straight up. The game is more important Tuesday night than it is Saturday. It's a knockout competition, and we're in the quarterfinals versus a regular season match against the LAFC. I know a lot of y'all hate LAFC, and you think there's some kind of fabricated rivalry. There's not. They don't think about us. But you're 3 games away from a trophy, or you're 14 games away from getting knocked out in the first round of the playoff. Which one's more important to you? Because the way the season's going, if we do make a playoff, unless a miracle happens, I don't see us getting out of the first round.
Yeah, miracles can happen, or maybe we sign this amazing TAM 10 that radically changed our team with a very quick integration. But yeah, I don't know. Brad and I are planning on going to Winnipeg in November, and I think that we'll probably see more playoff action in the CFL than MLS at this point.
You mentioned signing a TAM 10, so I think that goes to the next part of the conversation, though, right? Which is there was a signing this week that was announced. And in true Rodolfo Burrell fashion, when we need a 10, we get a 6 and an 8, because you can never have too many 6 or hybrid 6-8s. I forgot the guy's name already off the top of my head, and I'll have to go look at it. My apologies here. Let me see here. Yeah, Nicky Belloco. Yeah, yes. Nicky Belloco. Apparently he's going to wear the number 27. But looking at tape, looking at how he profiles, he's coming from the Swedish league, correct?
Swiss league.
Swiss league.
You're getting your S countries, S expensive countries mixed up.
Yeah, so he's coming from the Swiss league. But the thing that sticks out to me is when the first highlight on your tape is a crossbar. Is that a good thing?
He's just auditioning for the MLS All-Star game. It's just a promo here.
Put him right into the crossbar challenge.
Message dropped out of the crossbar challenge. Your new contestant is Nicky.
I feel like Scott's not as entertained by this idea as we are.
I think it's a great idea for the challenge, first of all, because I think we need more skills competition events, just for the sake of like expanding that out. And I'm so unexcited by the signing. I could not be less excited about it.
But you know what? Maybe that means that he'll end up being this amazing player, because if we look at our history of like players that we've greeted with big fanfare and like huge crowds and sightings, like they haven't necessarily turned out very well.
I think my problem is like, it's not that I don't think he might not be a decent player. He might be, but where does it fit structurally in the team? You now have Owen, Danny, Sabovich, and Belloco, who all kind of are the same player, or play as similar positions.
Yeah, like, because it seems to me like what this team is missing, in addition to having a like more of a quote unquote 10 playmaker up top. But I think one of the ways you could counteract that would be having a really strong defensive midfielder to be the base of that. That would give Danny more freedom to get forward, which we saw once or twice against Seattle. That looks pretty good. And so if you can't do it by like one player having the skill for it, I think the way you do it is you try to change the numbers or try to have two guys kind of do it. And that would seems like a better option for me, but that doesn't seem like the person we just signed. And we can't, and unfortunately, we don't have a time machine, so we can't make Ilya 5 years younger, which is the real fix of this. But I just don't see this doing anything to move the needle.
We also just used an international spot on him, meaning we now have one left. We think we're going to get a center back, or at least that's what we all think we need, along with a 10. So either somebody's going to leave. I think we have an extra buyout left, if I'm not mistaken.
We do.
Maybe we buy out Julio, but then you need two center backs.
Yeah.
Or you buy out Ilya. I don't know.
I don't think you buy out Ilya, but who knows? I mean, or I think sort of our hope was that Julio would go to the Gold Cup, which he obviously didn't, and like Saprissa or Alajuelense or one of the Costa Rican teams would make a solid offer for him, and then that would solve itself. It hasn't.
I just feel like we've now built ourselves into a roster jam that doesn't make sense.
Unless we're going to sell Danny on a what you call a cash trade within the league, which might make economic sense, but doesn't make sense for where this team is today.
Yes and no. I've long argued, as you guys know, that I think Danny's only real value is in the MLS right now. I don't think he has a ton outside of the league. And if you can go recruit something for him, you should probably consider doing that at this point. So, because if you're going to get rid of Danny at any point, selling high is the time right now.
Yeah.
He's still young enough that he's got value in long-term potential somewhere else. And if you can send him to the Eastern Conference, even better.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's something in the Danny conversation that gets overlooked is that I think a lot of people still think of him as a young player, but he's almost 25. And at some point, like, he is just what he is, which is a competent center midfielder in MLS who can kind of do some things, but is never consistent enough to kind of be more. You can't really play him as a 10. He's not really a 6. And at some point, like, he's just kind of there.
Yeah.
And I think in a lot of ways, Austin kind of missed the boat on really selling him for anything of real note.
Yeah, well, Beloco is what, 25, 26 coming in?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you can almost say it's a straight swap there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, if that happens. Okay, I know we're in the weeds a little bit, which is kind of standard for us, but we're going to go ahead and go to format. Seth, stock rising.
Gosh, it is hard to come up with a stock rising out of this. You know what? Since we talked about it a couple of weeks ago on the podcast, and I was wrong. I'm going to give a initial stock rising to the Seattle Sounders for keeping the grass in on the field. However, I feel like we actually really struggled on the grass. So that is something that we just couldn't actually find our footing. And I don't know, like I guess it's like Brandon Vasquez is like, oh, I remember playing on this field on turf. Like it felt like we just couldn't actually adapt to it. And since the Sounders had played on that same grass for 3 matches right before this against 3 teams that are all way better than Austin FC, that they were able to take advantage of that. So I will give my stock rising to grass because that did more than the grass that's on our jerseys.
Fair. Brad, your turn.
Yeah, mine is Mirto Ozuni. Because there's this narrative out there that this team plays better without Mirto Ozuni in the lineup or on the roster, whatever the case may be. And I present to you Exhibit A of why that's not the case. We don't have enough creativity in his spot. I would argue we don't have enough tenacity in his spot right now with the lineup we rolled out the other night. So I'm gonna say for me, the way he's played pretty well in my opinion the last few games he's been in. Some chances haven't finished off that I think would make his stats look better, but Uzuni to me gets the stock rising just by omission.
That's fair, and as somebody who still believes in that narrative, I disagree with you. My stock rising is playing in the Club World Cup and not resting, because I think, as kind of Seth alluded to, I think Seattle playing against better teams kind of work the same as practicing against better players. There's a famous quote by Wayne Gretzky of when he went to the Kings, he was actually really sad during practice one day because he realized that their talent level wasn't high enough to keep him as good as he was with the Oilers because the Oilers just have more talent. I think Seattle played a lot of really good teams over the last 2 weeks, and they are just better for that. And then playing a mediocre, I'm going to go with Austin side, just felt like such a step down for them that they were able to just kind of do whatever they wanted. A lot of contenders here, but stock falling, Brad.
I mean, one of us is going to take either one of these guys, so I'll just start with Biru. Hammered on it already in this podcast. He was horrible. I don't care what the Thought Mob says or whoever says he might have had a good game. He didn't. Just watch the match. And I think he's been actively not very good for the last 2 months or so.
Yep. And then the other obvious choice. So, Brad, you've already hopped on so much, is Hunter O'Brien. What can you do out there? Do you even have speed at this point? Like, waste of a roster spot at this point. So, I hope he proves me wrong in the next week.
Hot Air O'Brien needs to go see the Bobs and be asked, what exactly is it you do here?
Yeah.
I love how relevant that movie still is, even though it's 30-ish years old now, I think.
He was made 99, like 99-ish.
Okay, maybe 25-ish. My stock falling, I'm gonna go with man, there's so many good options here. I'm gonna say Sabovich, actually. I think that he has not really shown much in the last couple of weeks besides his ability to foul and get yellow carded. And I thought this was another game where he was kind of non-existent outside of being called for fouls. And ultimately, Austin just needs more from him to be able to do anything or link up play.
I think there's an argument to be made that Dubasharsky should see more minutes in that 6 role, like where Sabovich has been playing, because he's more of a natural player there in the first place.
I would just love to see other options used so we at least have a better idea of why Nico continues to run the same lineups out there week after week. As much as he's gotten a reputation as a tinkerer, which I, one, disagree with, and two, like, you should tinker if the team's not working. Like, that's kind of the point of being a coach. Yeah. I'm gonna start with the moment of suffering because it's my prerogative. My moment of suffering was not actually during the match. It was the next morning at 5:30 when my wife's dog woke me up, and I immediately, one, did not have any love for her, and two, regretted staying up to watch that game until 11:30 or 11:45, and thought, why did I do that again? Because I was not able to get back to sleep, and that kind of just set my Sunday off wrong.
I was up earlier than you, but that was just to catch the flight. And admittedly, I watched this match on replay on Monday, which was like a painful thing to do, like a stupid thing to do. But like, thus is life, and making sure getting it. Yeah.
To be fair, you
These are
actually
the sacrifices
went to a
we
match
make for
Saturday
listeners.
night, though.
Yeah, I did. But so like getting out of Soldier Field is normally a 15-minute process, but it took a half hour because they were routing people around. There was Dave Matthews Band was playing next door. So they had special exits out of the parking lot to do that. So like I drove under McCormick Place on roads that like didn't really exist. Like my GPS was like, what are you doing right now? Like but that didn't mean I got to listen to the Sounders radio announcers for most of the first half. And the noise they made when Biru hit the post was just like, oh, and it's off the post. It's off the post. But off like it was just like, and they had this very British guy on there doing it, and his voice like went 4 octaves higher off the second post. That was just like, what just happened there?
I'm just going to imagine that their radio announcer is actually the fight and win guy.
that would be better at this point, but no.
Seth, I think we're on your moment of suffering.
No, that was
yours. Sorry,
that was
yours.
Okay, I wasn't sure if it was yours or not.
Suffering.
Okay,
driving around this, trying to get down to the 31st Street exit, driving through Bronzeville, listening to a double post bang. Yeah.
Could you hear Dave Matthews Band at all or no?
No, I could not hear Dave Matthews, but I did see a number of people with fire kits that had Dave Matthews Band connections, which I thought was pretty interesting. Also, shout out to the Charlotte fans who traveled down. Charlotte brought like 250 fans up to Chicago for the match, and a bunch of them hung out with us pregame. They're really cool. I hope we get Charlotte away again next year. That was a really fun trip, and I would definitely do that again.
Nice.
But it's also weird that they had like 5 different SGs in their supporter section, and they were all sitting in different places, like 32-52 style, across their 3 away sections, and it was visible from like halfway across the stadium.
That is interesting.
But it's also like that their fans are more politically divided for obvious reasons, and other things like that.
Okay, that makes more sense.
That's right.
Okay, Brad, your moment of suffering.
Mine came an hour before kickoff when I saw the lineup and realized that our wingers were going to be completely ineffective for the night, thus rendering our attack completely ineffective for the night. So
Very fair.
I stand on this. John Gallagher, I really like you as a human being. I think you're perfectly fine backup, right back, left back for us on this club. I never, ever, ever want to see John Gallagher or Javier Obrion's name on a starting lineup in a winger position again. Just is what it is.
Agree. I think the biggest thing for me is I just want to see the other options. Like I just want to see it.
I don't see that either one of them offer anything more than Fodre at this point, or even Farkaloon, bringing him up from FC2. Like
Farkaloon's hurt, so that's not an option.
But I mean, you know what I mean? When they're healthy.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah. Or hell, Robert Taylor, guy who we traded for, who's our third highest paid non-DP on the team.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of options, and Nico continues to choose none of them. Yeah. In other news, the All-Star game is here. The All-Star the All-Star rosters were announced. Lionel Messi was named, shockingly. Austin also has 2 All-Stars, which I believe doubles our number of All-Stars.
Yeah, because Driussi made it in 22, Gallagher made it in 23.
Yeah. So congratulations to Brad Stuver and Brandon Vasquez for getting named. Fortunately, we don't have to revolt outright or fly a plane because Nico didn't pick Stuver, which was a very real thing that was being discussed. So we're excited for that, and we're going to be, I know at least some of us are going to be at the skills challenge on Tuesday. I don't know any of us are actually going to the game on Wednesday.
There are still plenty of tickets available for that game. I'll be very curious to see how those prices fluctuate.
Tickets need to come down significantly for me to consider going to an all-star game in the first place. Like, I think the baseball all-star game is the only one that remotely gets all-star games correctly as far as the actual game itself. And I just don't care. And I know some people say, oh, Messi's playing. 50-50 shot Messi actually shows up for this. Considering playing Club World Cup, and it's his one chance to actually maybe catch a week off. I think getting announced to the team and actually playing in the game are going to be 2 different things for him. Happy for Brad Stuver that he made the team. I think that's a long-deserved achievement for him. I think we can argue about Brandon Vasquez, whether he deserves to be on this team or not. But I fundamentally just don't care about the All-Star game itself. Like, I hope these guys get bonuses for making the team, like in their contract. I hope you're getting paid for it. Great. I'm looking forward to Skills Challenge because I want to see giant skee ball and I want to see goalie wars in person. And it was $5. Sweet. I've got $5 or whatever.
Well, Brad, it was $7.
Okay,
it was $7 whole dollars.
I think I still owe you $7. Yes, for the ticket. But whatever. I can afford half of a jellyfish. Less than half of a jellyfish, actually, to go to the match at Q2.
Do we think that MLS is going to change any of the Q2 stick? No, they're not. But I will say I did appreciate that the Bens did not change. They bucked FIFA and did not change their pricing.
Good on them.
The $3 pizza slices, the line was too long. That was the only reason I didn't get it. It was wrapped around the stadium 40 minutes before kick. $18 for a full, 16-inch pizza.
Perfect. I'm looking right now at tickets on the All-Star game, and it looks like 123 is the lowest get-in price. A lot of face value tickets, but I mean, this goes back to when Gold Cup was here a few weeks ago. Tickets are just too damn expensive to entice me to want to go to this. At some point, the pressure of why would I want to spend $200 to watch an exhibition game that's probably not going to be that interesting. Gold Cup was here. It's the US's BC team, and what, it was $90 just to get in the door?
I'll be curious. So the rumors are through some very good snooping that the U.S. is playing another match at Q2, probably with the A team in October. And unclear on the opponents. It might be Ecuador because Mexico is playing them a few days later. But like, if you're gonna have what in your mind is a fair get-in price for the U.S. playing a team that is going to be at the 2026 World Cup at Q2?
I would pay 60 or 70
Yeah.
to get, yeah. But I wasn't going to pay 90 to go watch Saudi Arabia in a Gold Cup.
Watch Saudi Arabia's B team.
Yeah, between the BC team for US. Like, I went because I got a ticket for like half off through a discount code, and a buddy watching, friend of the show, Audius, who was watching tickets like a hawk and found a couple that dropped enough to where he could get in for half off. So like, all right, yeah, I'll go now. But and Devin went to the game. We saw Devin and Riley there and hung out with them and watched the match with them. But it tells you people will still go if tickets are there, because the next night had more people at the stadium. I think it was Guatemala and Panama, if I'm not mistaken. Had more people at Q2 than the US match did the night before, because
I
tickets
think this also, to some extent, like, there is just burnout in Austin over soccer. Like, especially US, when there are, multiple US matches between the men and women here every year. And unless you're going to have something that other people travel to, like a qualifier or a semifinal or a final, like, you're just not going to have the kind of crowd that they expect to have and expect to pay these prices. You just don't. You're just not going to have the demand for it.
Yeah, it's a misread of the situation, and I think MLS is making the same mistake right now with the prices on these tickets. And I will not be surprised if there are a decent amount of empty seats for the MLS All-Star game, which is supposed to be the showcase for Anthony Precourt and team and building this stadium and getting this club here. But as we're seeing with Austin FC prices, there is a point now where people are just not interested in going because the product's not worth it.
Yeah, I do hope that those tickets don't go unsold or unused. I would hope they get used to, like, sent to, local soccer clubs and local soccer leagues, kind of a thing for youth teams. But I kind of don't see MLS doing that. And I think, to some extent, it's also a problem of having the format of MLS against Liga MX, which I think doesn't highlight the league. It doesn't allow the league's best players to play. We talked about Sam Surge leading the Golden Boot, not being an all-star, but like, I think it would be a more fun game if it was just an MLS East versus West. Like, that would just be a more fun and entertaining product.
I think they would also have a better chance of drawing. Say whatever. We have had multiple Liga MX friendlies here at Q2. None of them have sold out. And you're talking like the biggest of the big clubs. Club America, Tigres. I think Monterrey has played here. I think Chivas is the only one I can think of that hasn't played here for the major Mexican clubs. They haven't sold out. So I don't understand why you don't try something a little different for this market. And I don't think even East versus West is the answer. Why, in this market specifically, are you not thinking about bringing over one of the international powerhouses like you've done in the past? I know you probably don't want to get embarrassed because when Arsenal came a few years ago, like, they embarrassed the MLS team. Why wouldn't you think about bringing like a well-known championship team over?
But like,
Something like
hey,
that.
Brad,
Like,
there's a very
it doesn't
easy
make sense to
answer
me.
this. We literally have the next week. I am going to go here in Chicago and go see a Premier League doubleheader. We could go bring a team that is near and dear to Scott's heart and past their prime, and probably about the same level as the MLS All Stars. Bring in, I mean, they've actually done it. Man U has played here before, but hell, bring in Everton at this point. Wait a minute, they lost 4-0 to Minnesota United a couple years ago. You can
Highlight your stars, get every team in the league to have an all-star, because there's a lot of teams that, again, do not have all-stars.
Or if you really want to drive some sales and drive some numbers, who's the most freaking popular up-and-coming team over there right now? On TV every week in this fucking country. Bring Wrexham over here. Mm-hmm. Pay them. People, I promise you, will pay to go watch it.
Yes.
And now that they're in the championship, it's kind of an even-ish game.
Yeah, that is actually the best solution. I think that if they did that, they'd want it to have had a bigger spot than Q2 because of greed. And I think going back to like something you mentioned about MLS or Major League Baseball getting the All-Star game right, I don't think this whole like having an all-star game to showcase against another team makes sense. Like I just don't think that's a way to highlight your own league or your own players and like at some point like you just need to have in like I said like an East West or
Or you do,
or split it up
or
another
you
way or
could
something
do
like that.
a.
But
I
like
mean, honestly, the best All-Star game format that we've seen recently was what the NHL did with the Four Nations face-off. And we don't need more games at this point because if there's one thing that like we all agree on, it's like we're actually soccered out. I mean, yay, the Club World Cup round of 16 ends today. Well, the Women's Euros start tomorrow, and then the Women's African Cup of Nations also starts this weekend. Like the amount of soccer we have on right now is like even for someone who always loves having something on in the background is like it's at holy shit levels right now.
Now, this could be an interesting idea. I actually like the Four Nations idea of what if you did a North America, Central America, South America, and Europe based like MLS players
Yeah.
emanating from those areas, right?
Yeah,
And
or
then,
just say that we're gonna go do a MLS players. We're gonna do a USA versus the world game, sort of like President's Cup and golf style.
yeah,
I actually think that that's a pretty cool idea.
yeah,
yeah, but again, like that would be a more fun idea and a way to showcase your own players.
Yes.
Like that's the point of the All Star game is to have a big event and try to get more people interested to watch what you're doing. Um,
and the other
okay, I
thing,
got
I think fans of both leagues are a little tired of MLS versus Liga MX. Like we play
yes,
CCC, and now we have Leagues Cup. Like,
It's also like no one is a fan, just as there's no one is a fan of MLS. No
yeah,
one's a fan of Liga MX. People support their club. There are people who are fans of the EPL. There are people who are fans of the Bundesliga. There are people who are fans of Serie A. These leagues are both so incompetently run that no one is a fan of the leagues. They're a fan of their club, or maybe
yeah.
they enjoy watching hating on another club or other things, or if they live in certain cities or things like that. But like we are relative MLS sick. No, we're not relative. We are MLS sickos, and even we don't like the league.
yeah,
Yeah, there are so many things that I think the league should be trying to do with this game that they're not doing, and it's just lazy. I think the Liga MX versus MLS thing worked a few years ago prior to Leagues Cup creation because it was a little interesting at that point. The first time they did it was first two times were actually pretty good to watch, but now that you've added this entire month-long tournament on top of it, it's just overkill.
Yeah.
You see these guys play against each other all the time. Show me something new and different to make
Yeah,
this
I mean,
special.
I will at least appreciate since Devin is not on today, I will cover 1 minute of the Leagues Cup that we will just ignore otherwise. Is like the new format this year is better. Number one, we're not in it. Number two, that every team in the group stage is guaranteed to play three teams from the other league, and then there's going to be the top four teams from MLS and the top four teams from Liga MX will advance to the quarterfinals and to the knockout stage from there, which is at least an interest. Like, I have no idea
yeah,
if it will actually work, but it should generate fewer league on league games. That was part of the problem of Leagues Cup 2.0 because Leagues Cup 1.0 was a whole different tournament.
yeah. Okay, so we've gone for about an hour now. Before we attempt to do any other randomness, I did want to talk to Brad about the lottery project event coming up to make sure everybody's aware of this. Um, I believe it's actually I don't have the details in front of me. If you want to help out,
Yeah, so let me pull up the graphic that my lovely wife made so that I can actually get the details correctly here because I sometimes screw this up. So on July 19th, come hang out with an all-star. Mr. Brad Stuber is going to join us at Hop Squad from 3 to 5 p.m. That is a Saturday, by the way. It is the Saturday that Austin FC does not have a match before the All-Star game. The rest of the league is playing. So if there's an afternoon match or something, we might be able to have it on or whatever might be on TV that day while we're all hanging out. Usually we ask for donations in the form of like, laundry supplies, things like that. We're actually not asking for that this year because we are still so full in the storage locker of supplies that we're good. You guys killed it last year with laundry supplies. So really what we're asking for you guys to come out, have a beer at Hop Squad, support them because they always support this great organization. And then if you can, drop us $20, drop a barcode, send us a Venmo, whatever. Because really, where we need help this year is just dollar donations so that we can continue to do the projects. Because not only when people come into the laundromats do we cover all the supplies that are already there, but we also make sure they don't have to pay for anything. So for 3 hours, if you don't know, the Laundry Project is a national organization. Brad Stuber works heavily with it. Um, and we have made in very little time, Austin has kind of become the biggest laundry project location in the country out of 60 plus cities now that have done laundry project. Um, and that's so big thanks to the people who continue to support here in the city and have rallied around this. If you've never done one, and unfortunately, sometimes our volunteer spots are limited because of how many locations we have and how many people can be there, but it is a true direct impact on the community. Because I can tell you when you donate, that money is going directly to either supplies or it's going to purchase the cycle so that somebody can have their laundry washed for free that day. So no matter what anybody's situation is, you walk in for the 2 or 3 hours that we're there, no questions asked. Hey, we've got your supplies. Hey, we've got your costs covered. What do you need? And we have literally had families like, man, I can only afford this much today. Okay, go get everything else that you need at your house real quick and come back here in the next hour. Like, get here so we can take care of you. And that happens. I have had unhoused people tell me, man, my choice, like, I needed some clean clothes. And I was using my last dollar here because I have a job interview tomorrow. And now I can actually go get some food and be ready mentally for my job interview along with clean clothing. I've had a mother cry to me and say, I had enough money today for either groceries for the week or clean clothes for 3 weeks. And I was having to make a tough choice. And you took the choice away from me. And I can do both now for my kids. So it is a real tangible impact. It matters more than you think. The dignity of clean clothing is so huge. I just don't think most of us can even think about it. It's like, oh, I'm going to take something out of the wash, and that is. But for so many folks, that's not something they do, and because laundry is so expensive to do. A lot of times, lower income families will actually just go to Goodwill and buy something because it's cheaper, or a 6 pack or like a cheap T-shirt or something wherever they can get it on because it's cheaper to do that than to go to these laundromats anymore because laundromats are expensive, y'all. So you're really and truly helping the community. So please come out July 19, 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. Hop Squad. Brad Stuber's going to be there. We're going to have some scarves, I think, on hand to maybe sell too for anybody who hadn't picked up their Stuber scarf. Come get your autograph, take your picture. If you've never met him, incredibly nice guy. He's always happy to sit and talk with you and hang out. So hope you can come out. And we might even have Birdie with us. We'll bring the puppy.
Oh, that's the real star there. Yeah, like I like to say, like, soccer isn't important just of all the things that aren't important, it's the most important. But laundry project and being able to do that kind of work and that kind of work in the community is really important because it does make a very big difference for a thing that a lot of us do take for granted. Yeah, we went on a very serious note there for a little bit. Okay, so we play LAFC on Saturday. US Open Cup is on Tuesday at San Jose, and then New England comes here next Saturday, the 12th. What do you guys think the results are going to look like for those 3 matches?
LAFC here. So LAFC at Austin, I'm gonna guess that, I mean, this LAFC team looked okay against Vancouver on Sunday night, but not great. They're sort of in a little funk at the moment, but like nothing is like coming to Austin to get out of your funk. I guess it's a 1-1 draw. I think we look better than we did in Seattle. But yeah, that strikes me as a match that we should get 3 points out of, and we won't because it's Austin. I will be in San Jose next Tuesday night for the match. We've got about 24 of us sickos going for that. It should be fun. I think we lose 3-2 in extra time, but we'll see how that goes. I'm fully preparing myself for 120 minutes in San Jose next Tuesday night. And then New England coming back here. New England is out of Open Cup because of also the fire, so they'll get a full week of rest before that match. I I think we could actually beat them because they're probably not used to playing in weather this hot. I'll say we'll get a 2-1 win in that one.
Yeah, I'm with Seth on the 1-1 draw against LAFC this weekend. That's kind of where my head has
Oh,
been.
I apologize. New England has a rescheduled match against Inter Miami on that Wednesday, so I feel better about my prediction that they have to go play Miami at home Wednesday and then come down to Austin on Saturday.
Seth, I'm kind of with you on a lot of this. I'm with you on the 1-1 draw this weekend. I do think 120 minutes is in the cards for San Jose. I think this goes to a shootout. At that point, I like our chances with Stuber in goal. And then you hit the nail on the head for me with New England, which is weather. Right now, looking out, and it's 12 days out, long time ago. It's 102 that day is the high and a 55% chance of rain, which means it could get a little humid and sticky out there as well. Now, sometimes the rain here also ends up cooling some stuff off and makes it pleasant, as it did at the Murga event at Round Rock the other night for the baseball game. But it's going to be gross. And I think that could play to our advantage against New England. So I think we pick up 4 points in MLS. I'm going to say we're making the semifinals in Open Cup, actually. We've never won at San Jose. I think technically that streak continues because it's a draw if you go to PKs. However, I do think if we get to PKs, I like our chances with Stuber in goal.
So I think I'm the pessimist. I think we lose to LAFC, who are going to look a lot better without Giroud there. I unfortunately don't think we're going to beat San Jose because I think San Jose's chaos is going to be too much for us. And as we've seen over and over again, a Nico team can't win if the other team scores 2 goals. Although I'm not sure how that
I was just saying, we did that in Open Cup. We have come back from 2-0 down in the Open Cup.
Let me rephrase. Against MLS sides. But still, and then but I do like us to beat New England at Q2 next Saturday at the 12th. Mostly because I don't think they're good, and if they're having to play midweek too, that's gonna really hurt them, especially in the heat. So that we have a lot of soccer coming up as we have all summer. Thanks to everybody for listening, and thank you for suffering with us. Goodbye.
No, we do have one more important note. We had some very important stuff happen. Brad, you want to go with it?
The Rouge counter, man.
We have a Rouge counter, but we had something more than a Rouge this weekend. We had our beloved Toronto Argonauts had 2 100-plus yard touchdowns scored by a safety.
That's right. And Argos get off the schneid, get a win.
But it's definitely not a bad sign for Toronto that they needed 2 touchdowns by a safety to win the game.
Don't worry about it.
You know what? Hey, he's like the only player who's staying in Toronto. The Leafs go trade one of their stars out to Vegas. Toronto FC cuts both of their Italians today. Like, you know what? Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment does also own the Argos, but like they get to a point where at least they can find a Division III athlete from Ithaca College who can score them 2 defensive touchdowns in a game.
When I'm watching the Argos in Grey Cup in person later this year, I'm going to take a sign that says Scott doubted you, and that's going to be fun.
I can only hope that gets on TV as much as that one cameraman loved putting Seth close up. Okay, with that encore, I'm just going to say bye, everyone.
Promise here for Austin Jarrett Stroud. It's Diego for goodness! He has written his name into Austin folklore.
They just won't go away.
Oh, he hits the upright again! That's impossible!
The Bears' season's going to end on a double doink.
Altidore squares it. Dempsey's missed it. Donovan has it. From hope, there is glory.